in child protective services, and they won't give them back to their loving families because they're making money.
This is a legal system that you're going into. And if you don't know the rules, you will be chewed up and spit out.
If I could say anything to a mother who just got their children detained, you're in a crisis. Yeah. Life feels like it's over. The most important thing is regaining custody of your children.
The child welfare system at its core is designed to protect children who need protection, okay? And that's key, is who need protection.
So social workers, out of fear, will remove more children rather than only remove those children that truly need to be removed.
It's okay. It's okay.
This isn't someone stole your car. Someone broke into your house. This is someone took your child, your flesh and blood.
It doesn't say on this order that it was not proven. It says untrue. I immediately knew that, okay, well, this ain't over.
Were there signs there? Were there no signs? Did I miss them? Did I catch them? At this point, I honestly don't know.
Families only get a finite amount of time to reunify.
I came into this field to help families, not destroy them.
The difference between the criminal system and the child welfare system is substantial. You have more rights as a criminal than you do as a parent.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fight CPS with LJ. Hi, Deidre. How are you tonight?
Hi, good. Thank you. Hi, good. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to my show. Usually I have technical difficulties of some kind, so it's frustrating. But first of all, I want to start off by how are you doing? I think all of us involved in these crazy CPS cases need to be asked that from time to time. You know, how are you doing? How are you hanging in there?
Well, I mean, since it started, I don't know how you can really say you're ever okay with it, but just try and stay positive. But my biggest thing is my court date is next week for terminating my parental rights. So it's just kind of scary because we all know what that means. If it goes in the bad direction, that it could possibly go. But my biggest thing is I just don't feel like we're at that point justifying if we look at it like that, as far as the way we've been dealt with the whole time throughout the process. But to answer your question shortly, I am just always trying to stay positive for, you know, my kids' sake, and the fact that they kind of know what's going on, my two older ones, but for the most part, you know, I don't try and bring that to them when I see them. So just trying to keep my head up and I have three boys. My two oldest, my oldest will be 10 in August, and then my middle child will be 8 in June, and then my little one will be 2 in October. And so,
wow, are they all three together?
No, unfortunately not, because when this whole thing started, I was about to give birth, meaning this happened in August of 2020, and he was born in October of 2020. So the sad part is my mom has my two oldest, which is a good thing and a bad thing, and I'll discuss later, but the sad part of my youngest is that she found out I was pregnant when this cannibal started. From the get-go, she basically told me that I should have given him up for adoption, and has never wanted anything to do with him, and has never like acknowledged him as far as, you know, wanting to know anything. Like, I've even tried sending pictures or videos throughout the last year and a half, and she won't even respond. And she tells my two older boys, like, they see him once a week, like at a sibling visit with us, but she'll still make comments to them, like, I don't even know why you're still seeing him. He's going to go to a good home and be adopted and, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's just
Aren't
sad for
people
that matter.
terrible? Like, just rub your nose
I mean,
in
it's
it?
like,
I mean, it's just ridiculous.
and if you really like were to look at my story as a whole, as far as my mom, I mean, she raised us Catholic. You know, I went to all Catholic school, all throughout high school, everything. And you know, she even went behind my back and baptized my two boys, which not that I'm against them being baptized, but it's the whole idea that she did it without me being a part of it, you know. But it's like,
Your
where in the
mom, that's
Bible?
important. You should have been there.
Well, true, yes. But see, the way I think she's looking at it is, here she brings them to church every Sunday, and you know, they hadn't even been baptized. And it's not that I didn't want them to be in some kind of church. It's just the fact that I've found more of a liking or understanding to go to like a Christian church. And you know, a Catholic church, I never truly understood anything until I got older, and I started following recently, about 2 years ago when all this happened, a pastor called Stephen Furtick. I don't know if you've heard of him. From Elevation Church.
I'm
He's the one that
sure.
just won the Grammy.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have heard of him.
Yeah. So anyways, I've actually learned more from the Bible from him the last few years than I have my whole life. And I went to Catholic school. So goes to show you. But here my mom tries to live this Catholic life and trying to bear the cross that she says that she's bearing, that she's bearing my two older kids, but yet the way she not wanting to acknowledge my youngest. I mean, that's her grandson too, whether he gets adopted or not. You know. So it's really kind of
It's the
sad in that
hardest
matter
when
because
family gets involved that you're not getting along with.
exactly. Well, and it all stems from.
So tell me how your case started.
Yeah. Not to go too much into detail because of our time frame, but it all kind of started off on the wrong foot as far as me and my husband, which I'm still with, and my two older boys, we had moved to like Kern. Are you still there? Did I lose you? Hello?
Okay, so you said it all kind of started off as.
People are saying there's a huge echo, and I was hearing that too. Maybe I don't hear it now, though. Better?
Yeah, so I'm going to mute my mic when you're talking.
Okay.
And that should fix it. Okay.
It started back, you know, in 2020 when me and my husband had moved to a different county in Kern County to have cheaper cost of living and realized, okay, yeah, it's cheaper cost of living, but no house or no jobs to find. So unfortunately, we had to come back to Orange County, but you know, we had to find jobs again, and that's when the pandemic hit. So make a long story short, we were staying at a shelter because I had started to stay at my aunt's house with my kids, but you know, that's when my family put their foot down and said, the only way you can stay with us is if you get a restraining order against my husband, and we think that he's the problem, and that's why, you know, you're not going to move forward in life, yada yada yada. So fast forward now, it didn't work out with me and my aunt, but I have this restraining order, right? Don't forget that part, it's key. So then my husband was staying with a family member not too far away in Fontana, and so we realized that, you know, we just needed to be back together as a family. So we started getting help from the social service agency, and we're staying in a shelter, a family shelter. And it was our first time ever having to go this route, but we thought we're better together as a family, a unit, than we are apart. And here my family, you know, trying to keep us apart, if that makes sense. So we were at a shelter, and mind you, I'm like, 7 months pregnant, and we have our two boys. And so we're all in one room. We're confined. We're already stressed out. And my husband just, you know, kind of started going south in a weird way, to where now I can explain it as far as, you know, now he deals with a mental illness, which he's been treated for, fortunately, and medicated. But at the time, we didn't know what it was. And I kind of was frustrated to the point where I didn't know what to do. So I went and I sought help there at the shelter. And me thinking that's a good thing to do, right? I'm trying to get him help. He knows he needs help, but we didn't know how to get the help. So make a longer story short, you know, we got him the help, but then that's when, of course, they bring in all the other people, meaning They interviewed my kids at one point, and all I think my oldest son had to say was something along the lines of, my husband, his dad spanking him or something, and immediately brought in CPS. And, I never knew anything about CPS, and oh my gosh, I wish I would have never known anything about them. But the part where they took the kids was, and it's still confusing to me to this day, they basically came to the assumption that he needed to go find a different place to live if I wanted to stay there with the kids. But in all honesty, they felt it would be better if I left altogether and went to a shelter for women and children only, and that he seek the help that he needed. Again, trying to break us up from the get-go. I didn't understand that either. But CPS, or whoever it was, the investigator, made me sign a safety plan. And the only thing I remember from that safety plan was, if and when your husband were to ever come back to the shelter, you need to contact law enforcement, meaning they thought that he posed a harm at that point to my children. So I signed it, and they went about their business. Well, then fast forward a couple of weeks, we ended up leaving the shelter and going to a motel because we were going to be transitioning into our own place. We were getting help from a place called Families Forward. So we're at this motel, and all of a sudden, it was like not even 2 days later, the cops literally showed up at this motel. How they knew we were there, I have no idea, but showed up at the motel, saw that the kids were in the room, obviously, with me and my husband, and took the kids. And I still to this day don't understand how they had that right, but supposedly that investigator said in the safety plan that I signed that the kids would no longer be around their father because I still had that restraining order. And see, again, I told her from the get-go that I only got the restraining order because I was forced to, and I tried to go to court to take it away, but the pandemic hit and nobody was allowed to go see the judge, even like in emergency situations. So they just kept extending my restraining order and just kept pushing it out. So it was almost like I got punished for having a restraining order against my husband that I never wanted to get on my own. And then now in reality, looks like I'm disobeying or going against it, breaking the restraining order, because now the kids are with basically their father, husband. So literally they took the kids that day, and still it's like I know it haunts my oldest to the core, because even though he fortunately got to be with my mom, but in the beginning he of course went to what he calls and has nightmares about Orangewood, which I'm sure a lot of people know in Orange County. It's where they first, take the children until they find out what they're going to, I guess, do with them. And oh my gosh, I mean, it was just a nightmare for them, and horror stories. And they would
How traumatic for the kids.
Oh my gosh. Like literally they said that they would cry themselves to sleep at night. And I would say things like to them, like, well, does anybody come when you cry? Oh no, I just have to help Colton. I can't say anything. Sorry. I just have to help, brother, and brother has to help me. And that just broke my heart. And then they'd come down in the very beginning to like see me for my visit. I almost felt like my kids were in jail. That's how pathetic it was. And they'd come down with like one sock on, one sock off. So finally I said to that lady, that was working there, could I bring them clothes? Oh, they had to go through so many different loopholes just so I could bring my own kids their own clothes to wear. I mean, there was just a nightmare. But
and where the hell are the services for the kids? They say that they're protecting the children, but they ripped the children from a wonderful home with both socks on their feet to a place that they're confined in prison.
And now if you even knew that
they did the same thing to me and separated me and my spouse and called it reunification.
Well, that's my whole thing. This whole process that we've been doing, reunification, we all were under the assumption that reunification as a whole, the family as a whole, but not until I think, I swear, at like my 6 month, or no, I think it was more like 12-month hearing, is when I finally started to get the word from my kids, actually, because my mom would tell them and my social worker would tell them at the end of the day, basically, Mom, are you doing what you're supposed to do? And I'd be like, well, what's that? And they'd put their hands on their hips. You're supposed to leave Dad, Mom. And I'm like, who's telling you that? Well, everybody, Grandma says we're not coming back home unless you leave Dad. Where in their right mind is that even, like, in a kid's mind? Should they even be saying things to them like that? And again, it's like, how is that even trying to show, like, basically here, me and my husband feel like we've stayed together, we love each other, we love our kids, we want to raise them in a solid unit household. Where is it going to make sense to these kids if you're teaching them that breaking the parents apart and telling them that they can't, work things out or be better together after, some time? How is that even going to be better, at the end? what confuses me. But I don't know. It's just a sick
Do you
thing
have a
because
lawyer?
well, I have a public defender, but it only took me
And what
until
are they
when
doing
I
about, fighting your case?
well, that's the thing. My public defender is basically like you guys always say on your shows. They're going to get their paycheck at the end of the day, whether they win your case or lose their case. There doesn't matter, but they're not going to work hard for you, I feel like, unless they're your private attorney that you're paying them for. But it didn't take until when obviously I was at the point where my reunification services were going to be terminated. And did I really put my head into the book, so to speak, and make sense of everything and realize where I was at the timeline stage of everything. And ever since then, it's been I swear I could go be a lawyer myself and defend, cases as far as my knowledge, but
I
my
have
public
stacks and
defender,
stacks
it's
of
almost
papers. I get you.
it's sickening. But see, the thing is too, is my husband is now on his third public defender, but rewind about 3 months ago when he got his second one, it was a female, and he had a male before that, and I've had a male, but she was the first female, and oh my gosh, did she move mountains. She's been the only person since day one that actually looked at our case from what I want to call the truthness of it on our side, meaning, wait a minute here, this should not even be where it's at. And make a long story short, she got an investigator to come out and do a home study, which they should have done a long time ago. She did a bonding state setting or whatever it's called study with me and the kids to show that it would be more detrimental for me to lose my rights to the kids, and has done so many things, right? To really, it made me feel like we have a chance, we're not going to lose our rights. This is all just wrong. And now our last court date was last month where we were supposed to have our termination of parental rights, but she had to go on medical leave. So they continued our case out until next week, but she's not back yet. So they took her off our case, meaning my husband doesn't have her now. So now my husband has a brand new attorney, and literally it's almost like I feel like we were right there, and then it all just fell through again. Meaning I was telling my public defender what is basically going to go down next week based off of what she told me, my husband's public defender. And it's yeah, he's like, yes, you're right, this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why aren't you the one telling me this stuff?
Right, that's
But it's
scary
just really sad.
as hell.
It's really sad because my youngest is in the worst situation, meaning the people that he are with, the caregivers, they're a young couple that can't have kids on their own. This is their first rodeo with ever having a kid, meaning, of course, they got my kid when he was only a month old. And from the get-go, they've, given me all the promises and all the basically fake ended lies and everything that you can imagine. I feel like I'm living a Lifetime movie with them as far as they were the perfect couple in the beginning you could think that could ever be taking care of your child, versus now till today. They just recently, last week, got an attorney and filed a de facto parent so that they can, from now on be involved in the hearings and yada, yada, yada. But just to put it in a nutshell, they want my child. They want my child and they want my child. They already have him calling them mom and dad, even though we've raised him as being mom and dad. So now the poor kid is confused even, because I've always referenced myself to him as, oh, mama will help you or mama will do. But now I see him when I say mama, he's almost looking around where's she? And I'm thinking, man, it's not only do I feel like I'm fighting
dealing with
CPS,
that
but now
exact
I'm
same
literally fighting them.
thing, Deidre, from my sister.
It's sickening.
My sister has my 3-year-old calling her mommy.
And it's there's so many other kids out there that need a good home. And they got into this from the beginning, knowing their position, telling us that they're going to do everything and anything they can to support us, to get our kid back. And they're, they feel bad for us. No, everything that I thought in the beginning was kind of this is too good to be true as far as, that perfect couple that could have your kid in this kind of situation. Oh, did it fold out on top of me and then some, meaning their true colors that have come out. I mean, because we had to do a post-adoption agreement contract or whatever you say. In worst cases, if I lose my rights, then he gets adopted, right? I couldn't believe when I found out what they technically want to have for me and my husband and their brothers going forward, meaning they ended up telling us, because they had to, as far as, they had to agree with what we agreed with. We were thinking, maybe twice a month at least, right? And we're even thinking, God, I don't know if I could go on his whole life with twice a month. No, they came back with, meaning their only offer on the table, once a year. Meaning if he gets adopted by them, the next time I'll see him is not for another year. But they think that's in the best interest of him. And then even for my other two sons, then, his brothers.
Unacceptable. What is the guardian ad litem saying?
What's the what? What's the what?
What is your guardian ad litem saying?
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
So the guardian ad litem is supposed to look out for the best interests of the child.
Like the mediator? Well, the only person I had facilitating this post-adoption agreement contract was the mediator that I was assigned to from my social worker. And she was just the one basically to take my word and give it to them.
So you've never had a guardian ad litem appointed to kind of represent the kids?
No. And that's the first time I've ever even heard that.
Crazy. Yeah, usually a guardian ad litem is appointed to your case. That way they look out for the best interest of the child to make sure that the child's rights are being cared for.
I can't hear you. You went away. I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
A little bit. It's kind of breaking up. A little bit. It's kind of breaking up. Now, I can hear myself. Now it's better.
Okay.
It's a guardian.
So yeah, I'm surprised you don't have a guardian ad litem. Yeah, and they look out for the best interest of the children and make sure that their rights are being cared for, just like we have rights. Children have rights.
Yeah.
So
no, I never knew that.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Another thing that's really tricky in my case is the fact that the paternal grandmother, meaning my husband's mom, has been and is still being looked at as far as a possibility to take the kids, meaning she's been willing and able to since day one, and they've still not even cleared her, so to speak, as far as her being an option, as far as if she was technically, all her boxes were checked off, so to speak, through the courts. I mean, Kaden, I can't say the name, sorry. My youngest could go with her like tomorrow, right? But no, everything has always been against basically any options of, number one, my youngest having a place to go to basically not be adopted. I mean, my social worker even refers to the caregiver's mom as, this is what she told me recently. She's more worried about the bond that she would break between my youngest child and the grandma. Meaning grandma, where do you get grandma from? She's not related to my child whatsoever, but she's referred to as grandma, obviously. But yeah, she's more worried about the bond that she would break between my youngest and grandma than, trying to put him in a paternal grandmother's setting that, supposedly my youngest doesn't even know, because yeah, she lives, an hour or so away, but still, she's never really been given the opportunity to get to know him because of the situation. And it's just, she's really just been against me getting my kids back since day one, because I'm still with my husband, and my mom has had the biggest part in, feeding them all this information, as far as my social worker's daughter babysits my kids on the weekends, to show you how much of a weird situation. Yeah, I saw you just take your head back. I saw you just take your head back. Exactly. My attorney, my husband's attorney that now is not on the case, when we told her that, she goes, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to tell anybody until our day of court, so that I could hold it in my pocket and just throw it at him when I need to. But yeah, my social worker doesn't even know that I know. About 3 months ago, my two older boys, on my visit with them, they said something along the lines of, oh yeah, and our new babysitter mom on the weekends, her mom is our blah 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 social worker, like said the name. And I said, whoa, what did you just say? And they're like, yeah, our new social worker, our new babysitter, her mom is our social worker. She comes and drops her off and picks her up. And see, that's another thing to show you how much that my mom and her are in cahoots, because my mom, I could see her probably always complaining to my social worker about how, she has no life anymore ever since she's taken on my kids, or she doesn't know what to do to find a babysitter, or this or that. And here comes my social worker. Oh, well, maybe my daughter can babysit your kids, my kids, my kids. She's probably thinking it's a way for her daughter to earn money. I mean, it's such a conflict of interest. I don't even know how else to put it towards you. But my mom is basically always telling my social worker that she does not want the kids to come back to me if I'm still with the husband because of all her reasons. And so therefore, the social worker has just made up her mind in that essence too. Like she literally told me before I lost my reunification services that, you know, basically why haven't I left father yet, and my like not understanding the process and the fact that she's not going to literally tell me that I need to leave him, but she's like, you guys are both on two different, you know, pathways, and he's back here and you're up here, and therefore kids can't come home. I said, but you've never turned the page for either one of us since day one. Never. Our visits are still at the same.
Did they give you more services to do, like the PACE plan?
Oh, we've done them all. My husband even just finished his DV class last week. Meaning we've done the parenting class way back when. I did a 10-week PEP class. He's already finished and completed counseling with 2 counselors. They've like cleared him out and said, we feel like you've had enough therapy, like you're done, so to speak. I'm on my 3rd therapist, meaning it's like, when does it need to end? They never want to close a chapter for us to move forward. We've both been seeing our youngest.
They always find some
visits
to
together.
Appear that it's, you know, something that it's not. Deidre, I'm telling you, ask your lawyer about a guardian ad litem and why one was not appointed. That's kind of significant that you don't have one appointed.
Well, yeah, and I've never even heard that terminology.
Yeah, look it up. So it's commonly referred to the GAL, GAL, and it's guardian ad litem, LITEM. And so ask your lawyer why one was not appointed, because that's huge. And then the social worker's daughter babysitting the kids. What the hell is happening?
Exactly. I mean, if I told you so many other things as far as me and my husband have been seeing our youngest, you know, visiting our youngest together since day one, in the fact that I still don't understand why they took him when he wasn't even born. But of course, I've now known that if you have an open case and you have the child, you know, they're just automatically going to take him. But it's almost like, oh, they said it was because, you know, failure to provide support, I think it was, or something, I don't know. And I'm thinking to myself, what do they mean by that? We have our own place, we have jobs, we have cars, we have, you know, food for them to eat. What do they mean? No means or providing support, you know? But again, I've also learned the hard ways that during the investigative part of a CPS case, if you don't fight those allegations or do anything to make those allegations not be true, then they stick with you till the end, and you're kind of just stuck with them. And so yeah,
you're guilty of something that you don't even know what the hell. Where did y'all get that?
My kids tell my social worker that they want to come home. And my oldest, it's really sad. He tells me all the time. He goes, Mom, he goes, I know they tell me that I'm not going to come home, but I know I'm coming home because you told me I am. And I said, exactly. You just believe that you're coming home. And he literally will tell my social worker when she sits them down or whatever, and he'll tell them, I want to go home. I want to give Dad a second chance, is literally what he says. Why they won't give us a 60-day trial? That's what I've heard that they could do, like kind of like a trial and error, literally. But my first social worker,
did you have your lawyer request one?
Well, we're doing it next week. Those are one of the 3 options I found out that one, we're going to request that they come home. One, we're going to request, very unlikely. 2, we're going to request a 60-day, you know, trial period, which is kind of still unlikely. Or 3, you know, we're going to ask for our reunification services to be, you know, granted back so that I guess we can have more time to prove to them, I don't know what, that we haven't already been doing. It's like, what more do they want? It's like the more we check off boxes or the more we do something, it's like, they literally told me like about 4 months ago, my social worker, that she wasn't worried about the DV anymore. She just was wanting me to basically leave my husband. And I'm like, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. If you're not worried about DV, which is what case was supposedly established from, then why would I need to leave my husband in order for the kids to come back home?
They told me the same exact thing. That in order for me to have unsupervised visits, I had to sign a safety plan saying that my spouse would not be at the home that we just got. And we were homeless due to COVID for like 14 months. And then finally I get into a house that he cannot come into. But you know what I realized is the judge never ordered that he cannot be at the home. So why the hell is the social worker telling me who I can and cannot be with when I came into the situation with him? Well, I'm gonna go
That's
out
one
with
thing that
him.
that's one thing that I fortunately didn't listen to them about, because there were times where when I was on my second therapist, she literally was telling me, to the last time that I had a session with her, as I was leaving, I almost felt like, again, I'm on that Lifetime movie network where she's telling me, okay, so your lease is going to be up next month, meaning you're going to go basically home this weekend and pack up your stuff. And next time I see you next week, you're going to be gone, right? Like that sort of thing. Like she had me that, like in her mind, convinced that I just needed to do that in order to leave him so that I can get my kids back. Because then she told me, she goes, because I might be the kids counselor next, because the counselor that my kids had in the beginning, I guess, was ending her timeline with them, and that my social worker asked her if she would be interested in counseling the kids next. And so she goes, I would hate to have your kids next and sit down with them one day and literally tell them that, you know, you're not going back home with mom because mom is choosing dad over you in a way. And I was like, oh my gosh, and you're the
I would have been blown away.
So I left in tears, literally, and I told my social worker on several counts that I wanted a new therapist. I did not feel comfortable with her. I thought therapy was supposed to be something good, therapeutic, right? And here I dreaded her every week. She wouldn't let me do Zoom. She wouldn't let me do anything video conference. It had to be in person, in her office, to where I'm looking at her, right? She was so old school, but in the beginning here, I thought I liked her because the first counselor I had, oh my God, let me just tell you, I couldn't even understand her accent, number one. But number two, she couldn't remember if my kid was a boy or a girl the next week, or, you know, what their living situation was. But then she had the nerve to tell my social worker that I didn't have a head on straight because I was living in a fantasy world of thinking that tomorrow I'm going to get my kids back and be with my husband and live in this, you know, perfect, you know, dream basically. But yet she couldn't remember if my kid was a boy or a girl, you know, that kind of thing. But no, so I finally put my foot down one day and I said, I will not have another session with this counselor, and I request for a new referral. Well, then she wanted to threaten the fact that, well, it's not going to look good to the courts in the meantime that you don't have any therapy, meaning, you know how long it takes for a new referral to be put in. Well, now if I would have known that I know now back then, I should have never accepted a referral for a therapist from the state in the first place, because we all know at the end of the day that the social workers are picking them for a reason. Meaning the first one she picked was domestic violence, you know, big in that. Well, then the next one was a licensed marriage and family therapist, you know, that's been doing it for 40 years. Okay, well, you see why she picked that one. Meaning the third one that I finally got is kind of a good thing in a way, but she's a student working under one, which is good because she's the first one that has actually seen everything I'm going through and actually is kind of feeling bad because she just is so blown away. But again, it's like all along, those two therapists, they would even verbally tell my social worker the things that me and her would talk about. And here I'm thinking, isn't this confidential? I thought they'd tell you in the beginning. Yeah, and I'm like, literally in court reports, like that fantasy story that I told you about, the first one is in one of the minutes of the court hearing of, you know, basically, you know, my time in therapy, I guess you say, to make me, of course, look like this horrible person. But I mean, even just recently with my most recent therapist, she's a student, right? So my social worker contacted her the week before my last court date, because of course she wants to check off all of her boxes. And I even told my counselor, have you heard from my social worker recently? Because we have court next week. No, I haven't. Next thing you know, I get a text message from my social worker stating, can you please reach out to your counselor because I've been trying to get a hold of her and she hasn't called me back. And so I sent that message to my counselor. She goes, I haven't gotten any messages from her. Why don't you tell her that I'll call her right now? And I said, sure. So she calls her. And basically my social worker was trying to interrogate her because she knew she was a student. And she went along the lines of asking her some questions about me. But then she said something like this, why don't you just go ahead and email me your notes? And my counselor goes, I can't do that because that's breaking confidentiality, you know? And so she kind of got mad.
Unless you gave permission for that to be
Unless I gave
given, it
permission.
is not to be
Exactly.
given.
So my social worker knew that basically the student wasn't dumb enough, so to speak, and wasn't going to get her way. So then my social worker said, okay, well, you know, let me just go ahead and ask you some questions now then. And my counselor said she could hear her typing away. And basically everything that my counselor said about me as far as, you know, she's complying, she's been working on this, working on that, nothing negative, right? My social worker like couldn't have it. She needed something out of her mouth that was negative, but there was nothing my counselor could say, right? So she finally said at the end something along the lines of, well, you know, I just disagree with you because I have concerns because of something, and just kind of like almost hung up the phone in her face kind of way. And even my counselor said to me that she was so blown away that like she got a taste of kind of like what I deal with as far as everything I've been telling her all this time. And then she finally like goes through it in a way. It's like, yeah, she literally told me I could totally see that she is just not in your favor for any way, shape, or form. And it's like, how come
Have
these
you
people's
asked your
voices
providers to write you letters?
They have, and my attorney has it.
stating, okay, bring all that to your court date because the judge is the one who's going to make the decision. So she can speculate and try to, you know, go around your case and try to find something. But at the end of the day, the judge has to look at the facts. So our cases are so similar. It's crazy, Deidre.
My attorney for my husband that actually was doing something for me, she was the one that told me to write the 2-page declaration for court next week and basically have my words be also looked at, because again, it's like we all know that the judges come out to court on the day of and just open your case kind of like, let me just read real quick what the social worker's recommendation is and kind of just go with it. And it's like, here I've been so stressed out now thinking I have a 2-page letter to basically pour my heart out into this judge and say, show me mercy and look at my case in detail, because if anything, it's like should not be where it's at as far as to think I would lose my youngest, I mean, and be adopted and not see him for another year. I mean, it's sickening. It really is. And to think that these people that are so-called caring for him, like how sick they are, and to think that anybody from CPS should be for the children, but again, they're so against the children and the fact that it's all this money power and system. And it really just breaks my heart to think how many other families and poor kids are going through this when all my kids want is to come home. I mean, it's so sick. Me and my husband, we thought we were getting stronger in our relationship, but the closer it gets to now this point that we're facing, we almost feel like literally we're getting our kids ripped away from us because my mom is moving to Vegas, and the only thing keeping her here is this case. So if she gets, you know, to be the legal guardian, because that's what she's choosing, which is a little bit better, but still not, she's going to Vegas. She already has a house bought. She's already told the kids. She's already basically telling them that they're going to school there next year. And now I would have to think of what, now picking my life up and moving to Vegas and opening up a case there? I mean, it's just sickening. And then to think that, you know, my youngest, how they would ever see their brothers again, what, once a year? But I don't know. I know we're coming close to the time being up, but
That's crazy though. I mean, I'm surprised that they're not putting the children all together because that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, because my mom has never wanted anything to do with my youngest.
Oh.
And even though my mom is kind of so corrupt in a way, at the end of the day, though, me and my husband have always juggled with this problem and the fact that if we really push the issue with everything that my mom has said to me and done to the kids as far as kind of like the evil, like sickening things, where would the kids end up? In a foster home. And that's not what we want, you know? And it's just sad though to think that my own mother, meaning family, blood, number one, doesn't want anything to do with my other son, which is their blood. But number two, the way that they're talking to my kids about me, their mother, and my husband, their father. But yet she wants to constantly push on me that I need to go back to church and I need to go to confession and I needed this and this and this. And it's like, but everything that you're preaching is so against what you're doing. And yet here I sent her a clip one time from the pastor that I listened to, and she comes back with, you know, don't send me this quote unquote holy roller BS, you know, and go to a real church is what she tells me. oh, but you're a true Catholic that's going to talk to me like that. I mean, it just blows me away.
Wow.
The things that she says. It's sad. It really is sad. But I don't know. I just have to keep my head up.
Just
And
remember, the biggest thing I think that we all need to remember is when you go to court, make sure you have the facts. The judge has to look at the facts, black and white. What is the law? So make sure you have all your providers and your husband. Make sure he's got his providers stating he completed everything. Because then,
well, that's the other thing too, is we've always been told not to come to court.
You've done it all.
We've never been told to come to court. We've told to stay at home because of COVID. But here we just found out that the caregivers of my youngest have been at every court hearing. What does that make us look like?
See, they specifically hide things from you. They don't communicate and tell you what is going on. So definitely keep fighting, Deidre. You're an inspiration to other parents, I know, because it's hard. It's torture. They are ripping families apart and calling it protective services. And the kids half the time don't get any services.
In the first place.
I'm so sorry you're going through this, Deidre. Just hang in there and good luck next week. Let us know. Please post on Fight CPS with LJ. Let us know how it goes. And we'd love to have you back sometime. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier.
It's okay.
But hang in there and keep your chin up. And good luck. And I'm going to play a song for you guys. I've been trying to play, inspirational songs at the end of each show, and hopefully it just puts a smile on your face temporarily, because we're all going through this crazy ride that we didn't even want to get on. Here we go. This is Family by Chainsmokers. family. So, Deidre, hang in there, girl. Keep fighting. Don't ever give up and just appeal. Fight it all. You know, they have to somehow go down for all the injustice that they are causing. I mean, our blood is being ripped from us, and we're given a timeline to do these crazy tasks, which we complete, and they want to just keep building more of a case on nonsense. So don't allow it. Keep fighting. Your kids want you to keep fighting, and you're gonna win.
One last quick question.
For you. Yeah.
If I were to lose my rights, is it true?
It's very hard to go back and reverse it. So time is of the essence. You have to make, get with your attorney, see what the plan of attack is to defend and make sure this doesn't happen. What is the attorney's plan? And make sure you have got a good plan that you like. If not, then tell them to come up with a new plan. Keep fighting.
I will, most definitely.
Be very involved in your case. And you're gonna get there. Somehow, some way, it's just gonna happen because we're meant to have our babies home. So good luck to you, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Let us know how things go.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. All right. Have a good night. Thank you.